Well, hey, welcome back, everyone, to this Week 9 edition of Bruce Monnin's Computer Points podcast. I'm Bruce Monnin, your exceedingly chipper host at the moment. That won't last, I'm sure. Recording from our studio in Minster, Ohio. Also checking in from the greater Cincinnati area, home of the 5-2 Cincinnati Bearcats, who won their homecoming matchup against number 27 Arizona State. We have our co-host, executive producer, and chief researcher, Rebekah Monnin.
Always happy to be here.
Tell us, Rebekah, I saw from social media posts you were in the stadium for homecoming. How was your homecoming experience?
I sure was. It was shockingly pleasant. Normally we do a little bit of a crash and burn, but we managed to hold on to the second half and win there. So no complaints. The weather was beautiful. The sports were exciting. The band was good. And I didn't spot a Kelsey in the stands. I don't think they were there, but that would have made it better.
I don't think there was a Kelsey there. No, don't think so.
Darn shame. But yeah, it was good. Shocked that the kicking from Arizona State was that bad. We'll take it.
Cincinnati fans like to think we always have the worst kicker in the world, but this week proved no, we don't.
Not this week.
I've seen several high school kickers this year that looked a lot better than that guy for Arizona State.
I saw a post immediately after the game that I wasn't sure was true or not, but I've since seen video of it, so it is true that the coach put out an open call for kickers right afterwards to literally anyone who has any ability. They're doing tryouts.
Yes, he then apologized for throwing his kicker under the bus the next day.
Yeah, but that kid's got to be feeling real bad.
Oh, yeah. At least it was an away game.
Yeah.
Next up for our newly number 34 ranked Bearcats is a 10:15 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time kickoff at the Colorado Buffaloes.
Why can't we ever get evening kickoffs for homecoming? Why is it always noon for a homecoming game?
All games these days, it's something with TV. They won't give us our nippered at night that we want so badly.
This is going to be a long game for the Bearcats coming up in the future with their probably 2 a.m. stop time in Eastern. But boy, for homecoming weekend, when the alumni band has to show up 7 hours, 6 hours before kickoff, it'd be nice if kickoff were in the evening.
I saw that Cincinnati homecoming parade starting at 8 a.m. in the morning Saturday.
The report time for the alumni band was 5.
Makes me wonder if some of those frat boys, went to sleep at all the night before.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Oh, before we get started on the high school football portion of this final podcast before the playoff field is finalized, I want to do a brief update on some events happening relative to the computer points. This is partly informative and partly I need to get things off my chest. So, people like to complain, and I'm one of them. So, we have been lucky this year. There has not been a forfeit yet for a team having an ineligible player. This is the time of the year those usually occur. It's usually some poor team that's ahead by 40 points, and they put in some sophomore third or fourth stringer in late in the game, and it turns out he transferred from another school and shouldn't have been playing because his paperwork wasn't done. And so they take the win away from the 8-0 team and give it to the 1-7 team instead.
Okay.
None of that this year yet. Usually there's about, I would guess the last several years, there's been about 3 such games every year where that comes up.
Okay.
None this year so far.
At all or just in the ones we follow?
At all.
Okay.
Whole state of Ohio. Everyone's learning how to do their paperwork. There are a few strange things occurring, however. Back in week 4, Lorraine Clearview and LaGrange Keystone canceled a game, and they had no intention of rescheduling it. However, both teams are now 7-1 and in the hunt for the conference championship. So they decided they will play this game approximately when we finish recording this podcast on Tuesday night. That means both schools will play 3 games in 8 days, Friday, Tuesday, and Friday. Now, for me, that just means some slightly unexpected changes to the computer point standings in regions 14 and 18. That's more my problem to deal with, but Hopefully for the players out there, 3 games in 8 days. Let's hope everyone stays healthy, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Now, last week, Cincinnati College Prep was scheduled to play winless Gamble Montessori. Gamble Montessori then shut down their season and canceled the game a couple days before kickoff was supposed to be. College Prep actually gained some nice computer points from that. They would have gained almost nothing from playing a winless team, but since there was no game, they essentially get the average of the points they've earned in all the other weeks of this. This will probably cause them to rise from number 3 up to number 2 in Region 28. And then finally, there were 2 games stopped during play at Cincinnati North College Hill this season. Initially, they were ruled as no contest, which just means they're considered as if there was no game. The Ohio High School Athletic Association has finally made a ruling, and they have said that those games are now considered to be final at the time they were stopped. So what we had down as open dates are now a win and a loss for North College Hill, and it causes slight adjustments to the computer points of all kinds of other teams who played North College Hill or their opponents. This is mostly in regions 24 and 28. Well, and by the way, it gave just a few extra points to that Cincinnati College Prep School. So they are doubly blessed this. All right, Rebekah, now that I have that off my chest, let's dive into our computer points here.
Well, that's a strange shuffling of points that I'm sure was.
No, and you can all look forward to that. If any of you go to my website, I will be at least attempting to update everything after the game on Tuesday night. The computer points won't be hard to update. The hard part's been it changes all the projections for what the highest and lowest seed each team can have coming up. You'll notice on the podcast here, we just tell you if a team is going to be in the top 4, the top 8 in the playoffs or not, that sort of thing. On my webpage, you'll find that I actually put each week that a team can be at maximum, say, like as high as number 3 and as low as number 14 in the standings. I get down to the actual numbers. So it caused me a lot of extra work this week trying to adjust those after these changes. Hopefully, by the time you hear this podcast, if you reload the page, you'll see the new updates then. Brings me to a question I had for you, Rebekah.
Oh, okay.
When I do this on my webpage, and for what I do here on the podcast, the numbers I use aren't the absolute highest and lowest a team can finish in the standings. It's more like where they can finish 99.9% of the time. There's some really far outliers we don't
Okay.
worry about. I've been thinking of like narrowing that down to like 99% instead of 99.9. It would make things more realistic, but there's more of a chance that there'll be some odd thing that comes out that makes us wrong, and then I would look bad. We can't have that.
Well, at the moment, there's not a ton of accountability in this podcast.
It's true.
Like, I could tell you our predictions from the beginning of the season that are wildly wrong compared to where things end up. So I think mid-season predictions being slightly not inclusive of edge cases, probably not the worst.
I was planning on going through once the playoff field is set in my spare time, and seeing if anyone who only had a 1% chance at any time during the season made it into the playoffs. I'm suspecting it's not, but I thought maybe I should check. But if they didn't, I was thinking, it would be a lot more realistic if I kind of ignored a few more of those really far outlier possibilities. But I don't. I'm undecided. Tell you what, anyone out there listening, please let me know what you think. Send us a note. How do you want it? Do you want it if your team has a 1 in 8 million chance of making the playoffs? Do you want that taken care of? Or do you want it if they have less than a 1 in 100 chance of making the playoffs? Do you want to be forgotten about that?
Well, on the one hand, realistic expectations are. On the other hand, we're the nitty-gritty statistics podcast, so maybe we should stay nitty-gritty. But ultimately, I think as long as we talk about the final result, and maybe if we see one of these 1 in a million chances come through to the playoffs, we highlight that even if we discounted them earlier. I think we're okay. I think we're covering the spirit of the pod.
That would be a obvious choice for a team of the week if it happened.
It would be a heck of a team of the week, yeah.
All right. So I'll have to decide how much hope I want to keep alive on these statistics. Huh? Back to the computer points. Division One, Region One, Rebekah.
We're doing it.
Number 10, Finley. And by the way, I should go back and look at this. I think they've been number 10 about half the weeks that we've done these rankings in this region.
It seems
Finley's been number
likely.
10 a lot. Finley is expected to beat 0-9 Sylvania Northview. And if they do, they should remain at number 10. Probably will remain there if they lose, too. But boy, you would hope they wouldn't lose to
You would
0-9
sure
Sylvania
hope.
Northfield. The Trojans will probably face 8-1 Lorraine to start the postseason. And our Division One team always seems to go pretty quick, doesn't it?
It sure does. I always appreciate that.
We're going to move on to Division Two, Region 8 now, which only 4 teams we cover there, but it won't be quite so quick. We'll start with 9-0 Lima Senior, undefeated 9-0, and they remain at number 9 in the standings, which tells you what you need to know about the second level points rolling in from those wins. They face their toughest test in the last 8 weeks as they play 6-3 Toledo Start. And even with that being their toughest test, the Spartans are still 22-point favorites in the game. A win should raise Lima to number 7, maybe only number 8. But either way, hosting a home playoff game, I'm guessing against 8-2 Vandalia Butler or against 5-5 Cincinnati Withrow. Now, Troy and Sydney are both 5-4. They both clinched a playoff berth last week. They are currently tied at number 13 in the standings. And I found that kind of intriguing. So I took a little closer look, and then it made sense. Both teams have defeated the exact same 5 opponents this season. So how do we figure out who's better? Well, it's easy. These teams play each other this week. Troy is the 14-point favorite according to the computer. The winner probably gets the 11th seed. The loser probably falls down to number 14. And finally, we have 3-6 Piqua are now number 19 in the standings. If they lose to 3-6 Fairborn, they are out of the playoffs. A win gives Piqua about a 10% chance to earn that number 16 seed. So hope is there, just not real good, I guess. I'll take 10% over 0% any day, however.
Oh, absolutely.
And speaking of that region, that leads us into our scores of the week.
Scores of the week.
Woo!
I somewhat expanded this week, Rebekah. We have 3 scores of the week.
You're creeping dangerously back up towards that 7 scores of the week number there, Dad.
Well,
Pushing your
we'll
luck.
try to keep the descriptions a little short this week.
Okay.
We'll start with Sydney, that playoff clinching win, 20-13 over Piqua. I like this also because Sydney wins the battered helmet. Sounds like a cool trophy, doesn't it? The battered helmet. It is the first time since the late 1970s that Sydney has won the trophy 2 years in a row. Sydney led this game 20-0 until Piqua scored twice in the fourth quarter to give the Yellow Jackets a bit of a scare, but they held on for the 2013. Our next score is from the WBL, Van Wert 45, Kenton 44.
Close game.
Strange thing is, I could not find a single article about this game not behind a paywall.
The paywalls are taking over the internet. That is a fact.
I did find enough to know that Van Wert scored the final 22 points in the game. So they were down 44-23. They forced 3 Kenton turnovers in the last 8 minutes of the game to help them get those points. So quite the comeback for Van Wert.
Absolutely. Wow.
And what that means, we'll be talking later. Van Wert's still alive for the playoffs. Kenton is not. Now, our final score, I really wanted to find some more details on this one that I did, but it was Cedarville 8, Greenon 7. From what I found, no scoring in the first 3 quarters of this game.
Ooh.
Greenon scored on a 32-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. It was actually a 4th down and 2 to go play. Running back took the ball up the middle, and I'll estimate he broke at least 4 tackles. And I don't mean a guy like touching him on the back. I mean real broken tackles on that play on his way to the touchdown. I couldn't find the details. Cedarville answered with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion later in the quarter. to grab back the lead and the win.
Now that one sounds kind of miserable to attend, I have to admit.
Well, if you're not going to see many points, at least if it's a close game, keeps the
Yeah,
tension up.
I guess.
I mean, it's better than one of those 79-0 halftime scores.
That's true. That is better than a blowout. Dang, the anxiety, the tension, all game.
Can't think of anything to add to that.
Well, maybe we can use this opportunity to engage our listeners one more time, if they will let us. Maybe someone out there has access to an article describing either of those two games who could share it with you in a totally legal and friendly, not-for-profit way.
Or if you just know a little something that we missed, I wouldn't mind hearing about it.
Oh, absolutely.
Next up, we have Division 3, Region 10. 5-4 Defiance fell 2 places to number 8 after they lost to 6-3 Salina in what was a really much needed victory for Salina, by the way. If Defiance loses to 5-4 Ottawa Glandorf, then I think Defiance would finish between number 7 and number 9. It's really close between them, Topley, and Richfield Revere. I think officially it says number 9 on the computer, but boy, it's close enough that 7 or 8's just as well. If Defiance wins, they should return up to number 6 and get a home playoff game. So that's what they should really be going for.
They absolutely should. Yeah.
2-7 Lima Shawnee dropped 2 more spots to number 19 after a close loss to Ottawa Glandorf last week. If they can beat 1-8 Kenton, it keeps them alive mathematically. But I'm afraid the mathematics is they only have a 1% chance to make the postseason. Mathematics is? Anyways.
No.
No.
You got to do the plural there.
Yeah. Oh, my grammar's dying again, Rebekah.
That's okay. The normal social lexicon is not grammatically correct, so even if you say everything perfectly, it's still...
I'm kind of stuck there on social lexicon. Nice. Yeah.
I've got some big words in here.
Moving down to Region 12 of Division 3. Our top team, 9-0 Tip City Tippecanoe, plays against 9-0 Xenia this week. Sounds like a good game. Computer points wise, Tippecanoe is going to be the number 1 seed, win or lose. So not so exciting on that front. It looks like 3-6 Oxford Talawanda or 4-5 Franklin are the likely first round opponents for Tippecanoe. Also undefeated, 9-0 Wapakoneta is a 25-point favorite over Salina. If they win, they should pass Bellbrook for the number 2 seed. A loss could drop the Redskins out of the top 4 altogether, depending on results in games involving Archbishop McNicholas and London. So those 2 teams both win. Walpock suffers the upset. They could fall to number 5. 7-2 Bell Fountain is a 29-point favorite against 7-2 Kenton Ridge. You would think with the same record, it would be expected to be a closer game than that. But must be a little difference in strength of schedule there, huh?
Yeah, just a bit. Lots of points up for grabs, though.
Bell Fountain is currently ranked number 7. A win, and the Chieftains host a playoff game as the number 6 seed, probably against Salina if Salina loses to Wapakoneta. 7-2 St. Mary's remained ranked number 8 and is a 20-point favorite over 5-4 Lima Bath. Despite the fact that playing a 5-4 team, there should be a large number of computer points available. Expect the Rough Riders to remain in 8th place with a win and fall only to 9th place if they are upset. I project Miami Trace to be their first round opponent, whether St. Mary's wins or loses. If St. Mary's wins, they'll host Miami Trace. If they lose, they'll visit Miami Trace.
Interesting.
Which, by the way, is somewhere near Washington Courthouse as far as the town where Miami Trace High School is.
The next question is, where's Washington?
I'll let you look that up so you refresh your Ohio geography.
That's a town named the courthouse?
Yes. I've never looked up why courthouse is in the name of the town.
Halfway between Dayton and Chillicothe on 35.
Yep.
Ooh.
Rebekah continues to look. We'll go to our last team in this region, 6-3 Salina. They moved up 2 spots to number 10 and locked up a playoff invitation with their win over Defiance. If the Bulldogs lose to Wapakoneta, they look to be fairly solidly ending up around the number 11 seed. Fairly solid and about, huh? Nope, I'm going to be definite. I'm fairly sure they'll be number 11. And they will have a trip to face 8-2 Bell Fountain. Or perhaps 8-2 Batavia. One of these. If
So,
Salina gets, hold on.
oh,
If
yeah.
Salina gets the upset win, they move up to number 9 or number 10. Not good enough to host a playoff game. What you got, Rebekah?
Apparently, they were just going to name it Washington because the area was settled by Virginia veterans of Washington, so we all love Washington. But Ohio has too many other Washingtons, so they needed a suffix to designate it. So they added courthouse because it's the county seat and it has a courthouse. But fun fact, the other Washingtons are Old Washington, New
Yeah.
Washington, Washingtonville, and Port Washington, all in
Huh.
Ohio.
Last two are not familiar to me. New Washington is Buckeye Central High School, I believe, is there. I don't know Old Washington.
Well, Washingtonville is the Cleveland, Akron area. Port Washington is straight east of Columbus, almost to the border.
Okay.
New Washington is halfway between Columbus and Lake Erie.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And Old Washington is also east of Columbus, but a little bit further south in Guernsey County. The
Don't know that.
population was 223 in the 2020 census, so they
That's probably
probably
why I
don't
don't
have a
know
high
it.
school.
Yeah, that's probably more realistically why I don't know it. They don't have a high school football
Hmm.
Now that we have our places named Washington history for the state of Ohio down, we move on to Division 4, Region 14, where we get another slew of WBL teams, I guess. We'll start with 5-4 Ottawa Glandorf. They fell from number 9 to number 10 after they won against 2-7 Lima Shawnee. So someone behind them beat someone that provided more computer points, and Ottawa Glandorf fell a spot. The Titans are more likely than not to earn a home playoff game if they beat 5-4 Defiance. A loss, and they probably travel to Clyde as the number 11 seed.
Ottawa Glandorf might be one of the teams on our list that we got the most wrong in our preseason prediction. You thought they were going to be dead last in this region.
Yeah, them and Van Wert. I think we got
Yeah.
maybe got them mixed up.
Van Wert, you thought was going to be top 4.
Yeah,
Having a
we'll get to
heck of
Van
a
Wert. Yeah,
interesting season then, the both of them in
yeah.
different ways.
Well, speaking of Van Wert, they are 4-5. They remain at number 17, despite that 45-44 win over 1-8 Kenton. The Cougars are in the playoffs with a win over 2-7 Elida and have a slight chance to sneak in if a loss, but it's slight. It was something like 7%. It wasn't very good. Speaking of 2-7 Elida, they fell 2 spots to number 18 last week. They play Van Wert, as we mentioned. A win over Van Wert puts Elida in the playoffs. The loss, and they are out. Essentially, those two are playing a playoff game right now. The winner
Ooh,
of this game should end up with the number 14 seed and travel to play 8-1 Ontario. The loser should be out.
all right.
Now, any of you Napoleon fans, we did not forget you. We just skipped over you briefly here. 4-5 Napoleon suffered their second upset loss in the last 4 weeks to remain at number 13. The Wildcats should remain at number 13 with a win over 3-6 Sylvania Southview. The loss probably drops Napoleon to number 16 in the standings, with a ever so slight chance they miss the playoffs with a loss, which makes us really look bad because I think we put them in the playoffs in about week 5 already.
Yeah. They've
So,
got to
odds are
really
that,
play their hearts out so that we're not too wrong
yeah,
about them.
yeah, we need Napoleon to win. It can't be wrong. In Division 4, Region 16, 7-2 Urbana fell 2 places to number 8 after they won as they beat winless Tecumseh. Going from playing a winless team, this week they are a 35-point underdog against undefeated London. How's that for a switch from an 0-9 team to a 9-0 team on the schedule?
Different gears for sure.
A loss in that game would drop the Hilltoppers to 10th place. An upset win could vault Urbana all the way up to 4th place, maybe 5th, but they could get all the way up to 4th and hosting 2 playoff games. Again, they are 35-point underdogs, so I'm looking at more than likely that 10th place. Division 5, Region 18. We had 2 changes of status here. We only followed 2 teams. That's pretty good. Liberty Center is now locked into the top 4. and Liberty Benton is newly locked into the top 8 after last week's games. 9-0 Liberty Center is still expected to end the season with the number 2 seed unless 9-0 Milan Edison loses to 6-3 Huron. 9-0 Oak Harbor is also sneaking up in the standings, but I don't think they'll be able to catch up to the Tigers. 8-1 Liberty Benton is a 5-touchdown favorite over 5-4 Van Buren. But with that win, even beating a 5-win team, they could still fall to number 6 in the standings. They could move up a spot or two from that. I'm expecting right now 8-1 Norwayne to beat 9-0 Hillsdale to pass Liberty Benton, and 8-1 Eastwood to beat 6-3 Genoa to pass Liberty Benton. Either of those two fail, Liberty Benton moves up another spot. If they both get upset, Liberty Benton gets one of those top 4 seeds.
Okay. Quite a bit of movement for late in the season.
Our other region in Division 5 is Region 20. West Liberty Salem, 8-1, surprisingly moved up one place to number 3 after defeating 1-8 Triad. Usually when you beat a team with only one win, you don't gain a lot in the computer points. There is enough of a gap between the Tigers and either the number 2 or the number 4 team that they should stay in third place with a win or a loss against 7-2 Fairbanks. So beating a 7-2 team, not enough to move West Liberty Salem up from their number 3 spot. All these liberties, liberty.
Lots of liberties.
7-2 Indian Lake is now assured of a top 8 finish after their win over 5-4 Springfield Northwestern. A win over 2-6 North Union should advance the Lakers to number 5. And their reward for moving up to number 5 might be a chance to host Versailles. 6-3 Miami East rose to number 8 in the standings after beating 2-7 Bethel. The Vikings are similarly favored to beat 3-6 Covington and rise one spot to number 7. A loss likely cost Miami East their home field advantage to start the playoffs. 5-4 Lima Bath dropped 4 spots to number 9 after losing to Wapakoneta. Doesn't get much easier. They play 7-2 St. Mary's this week, and a loss would drop the Wildcats down to number 10, one more spot. With a chance to go up or down one position there, it's really tight. They could easily move up to 9 or down to 11 also. An upset win gives Bath a home playoff game as either the number 6 or the number 7 seed. And that brings us to those Versailles Tigers, 5-4. They have lost their last 4 games.
Oof.
A combination of a toughening schedule, and they have suffered some nasty injuries.
Oh no.
The streak is projected to go to 5 straight losses after playing 5-4 St. Henry this week. At 5-5, the Tigers look solid for the number 12 seed and maybe a trip to Indian Lake. A win puts Versailles into a fight with Carlisle for the number 8 seed and with an outside chance to even pass Miami East for the number 7 seed. Number 12, Milton Union looks to rebound from losing a pretty much a coin flip game to 6-3 Northridge. They are a 19-point favorite to win against 4-5 DeGraff Riverside this week. The Bulldogs look to finish approximately number 10 in the standings with a win and number 12 with a loss. I'll move on to 5-4 Arcanum. They remain ranked at number 14 for what feels like every week this season now. It's not quite that bad, but it's awfully close. The Trojans have been projected to finish either number 13 or number 14 for the last 5 weeks straight. And a win over 1-8 Bradford means they will finish number 14. Of course, if they suffer an upset loss, which would be quite an upset actually, it would drop them all the way down to number 15. And finally, 3-6 St. Paris Graham, looking to win their 4th game in a row after that 0-6 start. They face 2-7 Ben Logan as a 16-point favorite. The Falcons should finish number 15 with a win, and even with a loss, they have a 96% chance to finish number 16. So we had actually written Graham off so much, we weren't even talking about them for several weeks, and now they look like they're probable for the play.
Wow, look at us. We really should not be trusted.
Oh,
People listen for the personalities, right?
that's the hope, yes. Well, maybe I shouldn't hope for that. I don't have much of a personality.
No, that's what? No, stop that. I feel like I get half of mine from you, so what's that say?
Maybe you got the good. Anyway.
Maybe I got the good half. Okay.
Yeah. Before we move on to Division 6, I just realized I forgot something crucial I wanted to add.
Oh,
Well, it's not that crucial, but remember when we were in Region 16, I believe we only had what? Urbana, I believe, in that region that we talked about. However, that is a region, the only one that I see where I am projecting all 16 teams are definitely in the playoffs already. All 16 playoff spots are locked up with a week to go in the season. A couple
wow.
others are close, but Region 16, we have our 16 playoff team. That would have been much more interesting back when we were in Region 16. But as I said, we're moving on to Division 6, Region 22. Bluffton locked up their top 4 finish after last week's game. Patrick Henry, Sherwood Fairview, and Defiance Tenora are all now guaranteed to finish in the top 8. However, no new teams locking up playoff spots this week, which is what I was really hoping for. We'll start with undefeated number 2 Bluffton. They should remain ranked number 2, win or lose, in their Northwest Conference Championship game against Columbus Grove.
Neat.
Right now, Castalia Margaretta looks most likely to be their first round playoff opponent.
Ooh.
Yeah, Castalia is the town. I don't know where the Margaretta comes from.
Sounds Catholic.
It does sound Catholic.
But Spanish also.
I wondered where we put all the Spanish Catholics.
Wikipedia. Oh, it's well, no, hold on. I'd say it's the name of the school district, but obviously the Wikipedia is not satisfying.
It's been said on more than one occasion throughout modern history.
Yeah, especially for small towns.
Well, I'll set
Maybe they have
Rebekah
a
loose on
history
her,
page.
as we set Rebekah loose on her researching job. We'll move on here. 7-2 Patrick Henry rose to number 3 after defeating 5-4 Archbold. The Patriots should fall back to number 4 after playing winless Swanton this week. 7-2 Sherwood Fairview remains at number 5 after beating 3-6 Wayne Trace. The Apaches will probably drop to number 6 after they play 2-7 Hicksville. You have a mini trend going. 6-3 Tenora continues to rise in the standings and is now up to number 7. The Rams are 15-point favorites over 6-3 Edgerton. With a loss, they should remain at number 7, but a win makes a number 5 seed much more likely. 4-5 Spencerville is now number 10, and they will stay there if they defeat 1-8 Delphus Jefferson. The Bearcats will probably drop to number 12 with an upset loss. 6-3 Paulding remains number 13 after a tough 3-point loss to Tenora. An expected win over 3-6 Antwerp would have the Panthers finish number 14, give or take a spot in the standings. Well, a loss would drop Paulding to number 16, just barely holding on to a playoff. Ivan for Van Buren is now in the number 16 and final spot in the standings for advancing to the postseason. Black Knights need to defeat 8-1 Liberty Benton to make the playoffs. A loss and they are out, but with that upset win, they could rise as high as number 11 in the standings. 4-5 Allen East, currently ranked number 18, defeating 4-5 Fort Laramie should get them into the playoffs, probably at that number 16 spot. And to wrap up this region, number 19 Wayne Trace has about a 1% chance at the postseason. However, number 20 4-5 Convoy Crestview needs to upset 6-3 Lima Central Catholic if they want to be in the playoffs. It doesn't sound too great of a chance for both those, but there is some hope. Before I move on, any luck?
Yeah, it took some digging, and then I realized I was being silly. There was no history on the Wikipedia or on the school website or on local blogs. They're the polar bears, by the way. That came out of a poll from their newsletter. Turns out it's named after the township. And the township, Margaretta Township, is named so because the mayor, Frederick Falley, who founded the township, had a mom, a sister, and several nieces named Margaret. So he said, "Hey,
No,
I'm gonna name it after all of the women in my family."
like when we briefly had our place outside of Ann Arbor, Michigan, we
Hmm?
lived on Joanne Trail, and Joanne was the wife of the developer who put the road in, so he named it after his wife. Although to be honest, they're not listening, but to be honest, she probably does a lot more work than he. So,
Oh, a well-deserved naming of the road then.
oh, I think so. And the good news is, despite being in Michigan, it was paved because
That
Miss
was really nice.
Joanne insisted that the road that she lived on be paved so she didn't have to clean the dust off the windows so often. So,
It's
all right,
it's like
Joanne.
one of the only paved small roads in the entire state that's not a state route or highway or
Yeah,
inside a major city. It's remarkable.
yes. Hey, we were living high on the hog when we were there in Bridgewater, Michigan. I did.
Absolutely. A good restaurant within walking distance, a post office slash grocery right next door. It's everything you need.
Just a just to go off topic here for a brief story.
Us?
Like I said,
No.
we leave briefly in this little burg of Bridgewater, Michigan. Uh,
Outside of
not
Ann Arbor.
incorporate, not incorporated, so I don't know the population. We'll say about 100, maybe. We actually, our zip code was for a nearby town, Saline, Michigan. There was a zip code for Bridgewater, but it only existed in a bunch of P.O. boxes inside the general store. That was the only place that zip code existed. So if you told people you lived there and they tried to deliver something to your house, the delivery man could never find it.
Living the high life.
Yeah, we were living the
Untraceable.
high life, I tell you. All right. Our next region in Division 6 is Region 23. 6-3 Mechanicsburg plays 1-8 Triad. The Indians should remain number 13 afterwards, win or lose. Mechanicsburg has clinched their playoff spot, and it feels like they will travel to 6-3 Fort Fry for their first playoff game. Moving over to Region 24 of Division 6, 9-0 Coldwater remains locked into the number one seed, win or lose in their MAC championship game against 9-0 Marion Local.
Ooh.
There are two big things about that game, by the way. One is if Marion Local wins, they break the all-time record for most consecutive wins in Ohio history. They are currently tied with Delta St. John's at 57 wins.
Okay.
The second big thing is they are already selling 50-50 tickets at several remote locations there. The 50-50 pot at this game quite often approaches $10,000.
Oh my God. Do you want to put my name in the pot there, Dad? Do I have to be at
No,
the game?
I don't know. That's only you only get 50 of what gets in. That's almost as bad odds as the Ohio lottery. That's
Yeah, but I only have to put like 20 in.
yeah, that's true. Well, I will not be at that game, nor do I think I'm going to get to any of the remote locations. I imagine I could probably contact someone who would get the tickets for me if I wanted.
That's okay.
I guess I'd have to show you what the numbers were ahead of time, so you know which ones were yours and which one were mine, so you weren't afraid that I stole your winning tickets. Then,
I'm not too worried about it, to be honest.
oh, I've never asked if you need be present to win. Most football games you do. If you don't show up at the booth, they pick another number. I'm guessing that may not happen here.
I kind of think it should. Drive people to go.
Yeah, why not?
Spend some money in the concession stand. Make it more of a 25-75.
Let's just bring more and more money into the Coldwater and Maria Stein areas. Coldwater, in this case, is hosting this year.
Gotcha.
Oh, so where was I? I was stuck halfway through our talk about Coldwater here, wasn't I? All right. By the way, Covington is the heavy favorite to be the Cavaliers' first round opponent. Though it's also possible it could be Lima Perry, Cincinnati Deer Park, or
Ooh,
Frankfurt Adina. Quite a drive for those last two.
yeah. Although I did hear the Deer Park band practicing the other day, so they're ready to go.
I was thinking you can run over there and give them a scouting report.
I'm sure they'd appreciate that. 27-year-old woman they've never seen before handing them a packet of papers and saying, "You're screwed against Coldwater." That'll go great.
Yeah, I'm sure that'd go over real well. All right.
Never seen a game by Coldwater, but I know you're gonna lose. Have fun.
That's not true. You saw them 10 years ago, right?
Not recently enough to help them.
Same coach.
I was in the band. I looked up when a touchdown happened.
All right. And on that note, we'll mention our number 2 team in this region is 6-3 Anna. They are a large favorite over Parkway. They would then finish second or third in this region. Cincinnati Country Day will pass Anna for the number 2 seed if they defeat 8-1 St. Bernard Elmwood Place in a game that really could go either way. 3-6 Covington fell 3 places to number 14 after their 5th loss in a row. The Bucks are 25-point underdogs against 6-3 Miami East this week. If they pulled off the upset, they could reach the top 8, but the expected loss drops them right smack into the number 16 seed to play Coldwater in the playoffs. And 4-5 Lima Perry is on the cut line at number 16 right now, and they are only 12-point favorites against 2-7 Morrill Ridgedale. A win should move the Commodores up to the number 15 seed, which sounds like a good idea.
Ooh.
Well, a loss ends their season.
Less ooh.
So sort of. Yeah, playoffs begin today for Lima Perry.
Absolutely.
Moving on to Division 7, Region 26. Oh, okay. I was thinking surely we have a team of the week in here somewhere, and I suddenly remembered, yes, we do. They're still coming. Okay.
Oh boy. Deep down there.
Deep down. Start with Columbus Grove, undefeated, 9-0, will remain number 1 regardless of the results of their game against 9-0 Bluffton. There's a 93% chance the Bulldogs will be hosting 4-5 North Baltimore to start the playoffs. Makes me feel good for telling them last week that they should be scouting North Baltimore already. I have to take credit when I get something right. 8-1 Upper Soto Valley is now guaranteed to finish in the top 4. The Rams will finish number 2 if they defeat 4-5 North Baltimore. Delphi St. John's awaits for Upper Soto Valley in that first round playoff game. A loss last week to 6-3 Pandora Gilboa dropped 7-2 Ada from number 5 to number 6. A win over 6-3 Lipsick likely keeps the Bulldogs at number 6, just behind number 4 Sycamore Mohawk and number 5 Eden. A loss in this toss-up game sends Ada on the road, probably ranked number 11 in the final standings. Meanwhile, number 8 Pandora Gilboa is a huge favorite over 3-6 Riverdale, but will probably fall to number 9 with a win. Not that many points, and I think people are going to pass them. It would fall to number 10 with a loss. 6-3 Hardin Northern fell to number 9 after they lost big to Upper Soto Valley. Upper Soto Valley is number 2 right now, so no big disgrace in that. The Polar Bears are a touchdown favorite over 4-5 Marion Elgin, and a win should propel them just past Pandora Gilboa into the number 8 spot and give them a home playoff game. A loss sends Hardin Northern on the road, ranked 10th, more or less, 9th, 10th, 11th, somewhere in there. It's kind of close. 6-3 Lima Central Catholic is currently number 10. They need to beat 4-5 Convoy Crestview to host their initial playoff game. If they lose, that sends the Thunderbirds on the road. They will not make the top 8 with a loss. 6-3 Lipsick rose 2 spots to number 11 and is another team who needs a win to host a playoff game. The Vikings are very slight underdogs against 7-2 Ada. You know, Rebekah, would you go to that site you have? And I hope I haven't been pronouncing Lipsick wrong all these years.
You would think we'd know.
You would think
We're
I had
not far from
I had a co-op from there, and he always called it Lipsick, so it ought to be right. You would think someone
You're just
from there
really
would know.
experiencing a moment of doubt.
You just look at it, and the first thing is I want to say Leipzig. It sounds more German, Leipzig.
It does, but nothing we do in Ohio is the way Germans are supposed to. It should be Leipzig. Google is saying yes.
But good. I'd hate to have been insulting them all this time.
It is named for the German city of Leipzig, but
That makes sense. But of
nope.
course, if we're in Ohio, we have to pronounce it totally different.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, a place I'm pretty sure I do have the pronunciation right, 6-3 Macomb remains
Boy, that'd
number
be
12.
funny if we're wrong.
Really, Umbi or something. I don't know how I could get that one wrong, but anyway.
No.
Um, they remain
Macomb.
number 12 after defeating 3-6 Riverdale. The Panthers should stay at number 12 as they play winless Elmwood this week. 4-5 Arlington took a 4-place drop to number 14 after a 20-14 loss to Leipzig. Playing winless Arcadia means the Red Devils should remain at number 14 in the final standings. 3-6 Delta St. John's defeated 1-8 Parkway, but they remain at number 15, and they should remain there regardless of the outcome of their game against New Bremen, who is 5-4, I believe. Nope, excuse me, 4-5. Sorry, forgot they lost to St. Henry last week. We'll get to that shortly. So Delta St. John's playing 4-5 New Bremen. The result will not matter. And finally, we have number 17 Antwerp, currently 3-6. If they upset 6-3 Paulding, they can grab the 16th and final playoff spot, take it away from North Baltimore, and make me look bad for what I said earlier. Hey, look at that, Rebekah. I was right. Our team of the week was coming.
Hey, we made it.
Team of the week. Ba, ba, ba. Our team never seems so good. So good, so good, so good. Team of the week. Ba, ba, ba. We believed we always would.
This episode's team of the week is Ansonia. They were a 13-point underdog against undefeated Preble Shawnee last week. Actually played that game on Saturday night, a chance for many people to get out and see it. I was not one of them, but well, I don't drive,
Right.
But Ansonia pulled off the 24-13 upset to move into first place
Ooh,
in the Western Ohio Athletic Conference, the infamous WOAC.
good old WOAC.
It was a demonstration of old school football as Ansonia attempted 0 passes during the game. They
Okay.
did drop back to pass once, but the quarterback was sacked.
Oh boy. Okay.
Now, my memory's a little fuzzy, maybe on purpose, but I imagine I expressed a little doubt about Ansonia's chances to win that game. Not sure, but that sounds like something I would do.
Give me a minute.
Anyway, I will not let Ansonia surprise me again, and that's why they are our team of the week. And we move down to the big one, Division 7, Region 28. 9-0 Marion Local will finish with the number 1 seed, and they will host either 3-6 Southeastern Local or 2-6 Manchester to start their playoff run. And much like Coldwater, huge game for many reasons. Computer points, not one of them. Number 1 win or lose. 7-2 Minster is a big favorite over 2-7 Fort Recovery, and a win should give the Wildcats the number 3 seed. That's disappointing to me, as I told the locals that it should give them the number 2 seed until that Cincinnati College Prep game cancellation kicked in last week, and then I had to try to correct myself with everyone here. Now, Minster could still rise to number 2 depending on the results of some out-of-state games being played by Cincinnati College Prep's prior victims. Minster could also fall to the number 4 seed if 8-1 Sidney Lehman upsets 6-3 Dayton Northridge, though the Wildcats would still be slightly favored to remain number 3 if that happened. It would take a few other upsets in the second level points area to drop them in the. Our team of the week, 8-1 Ansonia, moved up 1 place to number 4 with their win over 8-1 Preble Shawnee. The Tigers should stay at number 4 ahead of Sidney Lehman at number 5, unless Lehman upsets 6-3 Northridge. In that case, the 2 teams swap places. Lehman will move up to 4, and Sonia to move down to 5. 7-2 Ridgemont stays at number 6 for a second week, despite beating Corey Rawson 6-3. I found that score intriguing too. Ridgemont was a much larger favorite than that. 36-point favorite, as a matter of fact, and they won the game 6-3. The Golden Gophers are a touchdown underdog against 7-2 Waynesfield Goshen. Expect them to remain at number 6 with a win, drop to number 7 with a loss. That brings us to those 7-2 Waynesfield Goshen Tigers. They stayed at number 7 for the second straight week also. They move up to number 6 with a win over Ridgemont, would fall to number 8 with a loss. 4-5 New Bremen remains at number 8 after losing to St. Henry. The Cardinals play 3-6 Delphi St. John's this week. And even with a win, they are likely to be passed by St. Henry, plays against 5-4 Versailles, and Tri-Village, who plays 4-5 National Trail, if those teams win. So New Bremen could fall down to number 10 with a win. They should fall no farther than number 10, even with a loss. 5-4 St. Henry remained at number 10 after defeating New Bremen. Oh, we have a little side note here, Rebekah.
Ooh.
I found it interesting. The Redskins are still 2 spots behind New Bremen, despite beating New Bremen, having one more win than New Bremen, and having their opponents that they defeated have one more win than New Bremen's victims have. It said, that doesn't seem right. So I had to look deeper. The difference, New Bremen has wins over Division 5 Lima Bath and Division 4 Norton. And those two teams also played lots of schools that are higher divisions. And that difference in the higher division teams has given New Bremen the extra points to keep them ahead of St. Henry. Now, St. Henry should pass both New Bremen and Tri-Village to earn the number 8 seed and a home playoff game if they beat 5-4 Versailles. A loss likely drops the Redskins to number 10 seed with a road playoff game, probably at 7-2 Ridgemont. Although, if you can't tell already, everything between about 7 and 6 and 10 in this region are really close and can get really messy Friday night.
Sounds like one of those weeks where you walk through the stands and everyone's yelling at you what's going to happen and where's everyone going to end up, and you have to run through the whole spiel to figure it out.
Yeah. How to make note cards and pass them out.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm going to get a little bit of that this week at the Minster game, wanting to know what seed they're going to be. And I said, well, I don't know what Sidney Lehman did. I don't know what these out-of-state teams at Cincinnati College Prep did. I don't know. Anyway, that'll be the answer Friday night.
So helpful. So listen to the podcast on Tuesday.
Speaking of that mess, smack dab in the middle of it at number 9 is 7-2 Tri-Village. Also there for the second week in a row. That's 3 teams staying in their place for the second week in a row at 8, 9, and 10. As we mentioned before, they should win against 4-5 National Trail. They do that, they probably remain at number 9. They can move up to number 8 if St. Henry loses to Versailles. Now, a little lower, both DeGraff, Riverside, and Fort Laramie are 4-5 after wins, but Riverside passed Fort Laramie for the number 11 spot, as their win over 3-6 Covington provided the Pirates with a little more computer points than the win over 1-8 Delphus Jefferson did for the Redskins. If Riverside upsets 5-2 Milton Union, they are projected to finish number 11 and probably end up number 12 if they have a loss. Fort Laramie is expected to beat 4-5 Allen East, but they're only a touchdown favorite. If they do, they claim the number 11 spot, unless Riverside upsets Milton Union, as we mentioned, in which case they'll still stay at number 12. And a loss drops Fort Laramie to number 12, regardless of what Riverside did. And finally, we have Fort Recovery, 2-7. They are now ranked number 20. If they lose this week, they are out of the playoffs, but they do have some hope. They play 7-2 Minster. While the odds on winning are not good, the computer points available are enough that it would give them the number 14 seed should they pull off the upset. Similarly, 2-7 Mississippi Valley can make the playoffs as the number 15 seed if they upset 8-1 Ansonia this week. Again, hope is there, but
hope is there. It's a dangerous thing, hope.
Finally, we have our 8-man football. And remember, unlike 11-man football, 8-man teams have 2 games left in their regular season, not just one. 5-0 Toledo Christian has joined 5-0 Sandusky St. Mary in clinching a playoff spot. They did so by defeating 4-1 Holgate. And again, as I mentioned last week, I am going to use the conference record for these teams since that is how they determine their playoff teams. On the other end of the spectrum, 0-6 Sebring McKinley and 0-6 Stryker are now out of contention for a playoff.
Yeah.
That means
Some
we have
fun
two
having
open.
enough teams that we can kick people out of the playoffs.
That's one way to put it, I guess. Yeah.
Make the regular season feel a bit more monumental than before when everyone just got in.
Yeah, now we
A bit
have
more
8
important.
teams instead of 6, a little bit, yeah. By the way, 2 open playoff spots yet. That leaves 4-1 Holgate, 3-2
Oh,
Southington Chalker, 2-3 Fremont St. Joe, and 2-3 Lakeside Danbury as the contestants for those final 2 spots. I really like Holgate. Already has one of their tough games out of the way. I like Holgate to hold on. The other one, I'm not so sure. We'll have to wait and see. And that wraps up week 9. I believe we mentioned a few times during the podcast, we had a few things that we could use some help with. How would people contact us, Rebekah, to give us that help?
if you have opinions you'd like to share with us, or friendly advice to give, or strong opinions to start arguments with, we'll take them all. All you have to do is email us at bdmonnin@nktelco.net or send us a message on X that's not called tweeting at Bruce Monnin, or you can add those thoughts in the comment section of our YouTube page.
That's almost been long enough now that people think of it as X instead of Twitter now.
Almost. I also heard there was a
Almost.
mass exodus from Twitter/X this week, so maybe not for much longer. That might have just been on my
Could be.
corners of the internet, though.
That could be.
Something about using the images posted to train AI made people upset with them.
Ooh, nasty stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we shall
Anyway.
return. Yeah. We shall return after week 10 of the regular season to preview the first round playoff games and talk a little bit how teams got there.
Oh,
I believe-
and we need to do one more blurb. If you haven't
Yes.
already, subscribe. Listen to us more. Leave a review. You can find us wherever you find podcasts, except for Spotify. Specifically, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, Music, or YouTube. Just search for Bruce Monnin, or more specifically, his computer points.
And I'm not sure I should mention this or not, but we may be Rebekah free on the next podcast, unfortunately, due to some work commitments. I believe we have Mr. Van Wright from our preseason episodes stepping in to fill the voluminous gap. We'll probably lose half our listeners without Rebekah being scheduled, so I probably shouldn't have said that ahead of time. But anyway, I look forward to talking to you all again next week, and Rebekah will be back the week after that when we start hitting the second round of the playoffs right here on Bruce Monnin's Computer Points. So long, everybody.